It's Friday, January 8th, and welcome to the reading of the Mansfield News Journal. My name is Pam, and let's begin reading with the area deaths. Muriel Ann Boardman Arund, 91, of Shelby, passed away Monday afternoon, January 4th, in Ohio Health Med Central in Mansfield. Denbo Gosh Funeral Home and Crematory are handling the arrangements. Jaretha C. Todd Barndollar, age 84, of Shelby, died Tuesday, January 5th, at Ohio Health Marion General. Family and friends are welcome on Sunday, January 10th, from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Penwell Turner Funeral Home in Shelby, where funeral services will immediately follow at 4 p.m. Jarena Marie Heston of Mansfield passed away Sunday morning, November 29th, at the Good Shepherd Nursing and Rehabilitation Center in Ashland, Ohio. She was 88 years old. A gathering of family and friends will be held from 5 to 8 p.m. Monday, January 11th, at the Ontario Home of Wapner Funeral Directors. David A. Crunkilton, 87, of Fredericktown, passed away on January 4th, 2021, at Knox County Community Hospital. A private family graveside service with military honors will be held. Veda Marie Fraley of Belleville went to be with the Lord on January 1st. Friends may call Sunday, January 10th from 1 to 3 p.m. in the Belleville Snyder Funeral Home, where the funeral service for Veda will be held Monday at 11 a.m. Tom Frund passed away on Thursday, December 31st. He was 54. The Frund family will receive guests Friday, January 8th from 3 to 7 in the Lexington Avenue Snyder Funeral Home. Face coverings will be required, and occupancy limits may increase wait times. A private funeral service will be held. Charlene Hamilton Gruber found everlasting peace on January 5th at the age of 89 years old. Private family services will be held. Lisa Ann Keniston, known as Sammy, 62, of Mansfield, Ohio, passed away on Sunday, December 20th. A celebration of life will be held at a later date. Sharon Ann Sifferlin, age 75, of Shelby, passed away peacefully on Monday evening, January 4th, at her home. Her funeral mass will be held at the Most Pure Heart of Mary Catholic Church in Shelby on Saturday, January 9th at 10:30 a.m. Family and friends are welcome on Friday, January 8th from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Penwell Turner Funeral Home. This concludes the reading of the area deaths for today. We will now begin our first article. Elected Officials Get Early Pay Raises by Monroe Trombley. It appears elected officials have received raises earlier than planned. Back in 2019, Mansfield City Council repealed a decade-old freeze on salaries of mayor, law director, finance director, and members of council. But none of those 12 positions were due to see raises until 2022 at the earliest and 2024 at the latest. That's because council voted 5-3, one vote shy of the two-thirds margin required for legislation to pass and take effect immediately. At the time, Law Director John Spahn said elected officials were prohibited from receiving a pay raise during their term. In other words, because the legislation passed December 17, 2019, elected officials were prohibited from receiving a raise on January 16, 2020, 15 days after their term had begun. But the city apparently sought another opinion. City officials acknowledged for the first time on Tuesday that outside counsel was retained. Sometime last month, council members were notified by phone that the council, in a legal opinion, had concluded raises should have begun last year, according to Cliff Mears, council president. It took a year for the lawyers to identify the fact that yes, these individuals should have gotten the raise, says Mears during council, and it's retroactive because we waited for a legal opinion to make sure we were doing the right thing. But Alamar Davenport, Ward 4 councilman, cried foul Tuesday evening, expressing concern about the legal opinion and the apparent precedent it sets. Being that we have no knowledge of what this opinion is, it kind of feels like the administration has figured out a way to kind of sidestep an emergency clause, Davenport said. If there's a piece of legislation that comes down and it does not pass as an emergency, meaning it does not go into effect immediately, Will the administration be able to take the legal opinion that they just received and sidestep that vote? That's the concern. Spahn pushed back against Davenport's concern. There was nothing done that would involve sidestepping, Spahn said. What was done was a vote in the orderly course of the law, and then the law was applied appropriately. Spahn, in a phone call after the meeting, told the News Journal that the outside lawyer is a former Mansfield law director. Before it was passed, the bill repealing the freeze was amended to reflect a 6% raise starting the first year for all 12 positions, with 2% raises in the following years. Council members were paid $7,536 in 2019. That amount was set to increase to $7,988 in 2022. During deliberations on the bill, Ken Coots of Human Resources viewed the pay hikes as a corrective measure, arguing salaries did not keep up with the inflation due to the freeze. With the raises, salaries for elected officials would be comparable to those in similar-sized cities, he said, adding the raises would cost the city $52,500. All three members of council who voted against the raises, Don Bryant, Walden Butch Jefferson, and Jeff Rock, either lost re-election or did not return to council last year. Mears then at-large councilman, David Falquette of Ward 1, John Van Harlingen of the 3rd, Jason Lawrence of the 5th, and former councilwoman Jean Taddy of the 6th Ward voted for the pay hikes. Two people sent emails to council expressing their disapproval with raises being implemented sooner than planned. This is disappointing on many levels, wrote Sarah Fernandez. First, that council would go behind the backs of the community to give themselves raises early without emergency clauses. This is a huge disrespect to the citizens of Mansfield who expect city council members to act in accordance with the legislation that they vote on. Ms. Fernandez continues, additionally, the Mansfield community has watched as various members of the Mansfield government say there's no money for improvements in the parks, no money to improve snow removal, and who cut safety departments in the middle of a pandemic. So while there never seems to be any money for community improvements, council has managed to find not just enough money for future raises for the council, not just enough money to pay for the raises for council, but for the last 2 years. This is a shame, a failure, and a slap in the face to the people of Mansfield. Let's move on. Macy's at Richland Mall is on the list of stores to close by Lou Whitmire. Ontario. Macy's at the Richland Mall is expected to close, and customers and employees have been posting sad comments on Facebook locally since Tuesday about the loss of the local store. The closure, first reported by CNBC on Tuesday, are part of a previously announced plan by Macy's to shut 125 locations by 2023, which the retailer outlined last February. In turn, the company has said it plans to focus on investing in the best malls across the United States and grow off-mall, according to the news outlet. The Richland Mall, along with Tri-County Mall in Mentor and Great Lakes Mall in Springdale, Ohio, a suburb of Cincinnati, all in Ohio, are on the closing list, according to national media online reports. Liquidation sales have already started at some of the locations that are closing. The rest are slated to start this month. A store employee at Macy's Richland Mall referred all questions about the store closing to an email address for Andrea Schwartz at Macy's. She did not respond to the request. The department store chain announced in February 2020 that it planned to cut 2,000 jobs and close 1/5 of its stores, or roughly 125 locations, over the next couple of years. Macy's closed approximately 30 stores last year as part of the plan, according to media reports. As previously announced, Macy's Inc. is committed to right-sizing our store fleet by concentrating our existing retail locations in desirable and well-trafficked A and B malls, Macy told USA Today. To that end, We announced several store closures today that align to the guidance we provided in February 2020. These closures bring us closer to achieving the right mix of mall-based stores. Ontario Mayor Randy Hutchinson said Macy's/Lazarus has been in the area for over 50 years. It's a very big loss for the community and a place I frequent, he said. It's a huge loss. The soon-to-be departure of the local Macy's store follows Sears closing at the Richland Mall in 2019. Aveda recently purchased the former Sears property for $2.75 million, according to the Richland County Auditor's website. The former Lazarus at Richland Mall, now Aveda Ontario Health Center, was one of the mall's anchors. Lazarus closed in March 2006. JCPenney continues to operate a store at the Ontario Mall. Built in 1969, Richland Mall was the first modern enclosed mall in north central Ohio and was anchored by the Lazarus department store, the O'Neill's department store, and Sears. Prior to Macy's, the store was known as Kaufmann's and initially as O'Neill's. Up next, Come On In! Former Homeless Veterans Start Stronger by Choice, Nonprofit to Help Others, by Lou Whitmire. A Mansfield veteran who was homeless and found in an alley half frozen to death battling alcoholism about 2 years ago is now helping some of the same men he once stayed with at a shelter. Jason Nasinski, 44, a U.S. Army veteran, has started a nonprofit, Stronger by Choice, on the city's northeast side to give homeless men a hand up. A new transitional house is not yet ready to open, but it will be a place for a person to go after leaving a shelter and is working. A place that will help a person save up for their own place, he said. It's a place with peers who are choosing to be stronger, drug and alcohol free, Nazinski said. He currently serves as a house manager for Reaching Out Ministries, Harker Street Warming House at 356 Harker Street. Nazinski said he was a horrible guest and was kicked out for drinking at the Harker Street Warming House, but the founder wouldn't give up on him. When you're at Reaching Out Shelter, that's a last resort. Angie Henke, founder of Reaching Out Ministries, then put me in a hotel and brought me food. I had to crawl to the bathroom, and I didn't want to eat. She made sure I ate. She took me to a doctor for help because I was having seizures due to trying to stop drinking too much alcohol, and I didn't want to go to detox, he said. Now he's found his calling. He's been to the low point of alcohol abuse and wants to help others get back on their feet. Nazinski said he grew up poor on Boughton Avenue and lived in houses with no running water or electricity. It's no longer there, he said of his childhood homes. I think every house I grew up in is gone. His family had a history of drinking, and he tried to stay away from it. He began drinking at age 23 when he moved to Columbus to go to college to study computer science. He worked his way up to a good job at Victoria's Secret in Columbus, where he became an infrastructure engineer. I was a functional drunk, and it got progressively worse over the years, he said. Nazinski has 6 children, aged 4 to 18, and he wants to show them how to take your good work ethic and put it to good use. He said his drinking became a problem, and he woke up single about 4 years ago. I began to drink heavier and heavier. One night I went to get some beer, and I came home, and the house key was gone. I began sleeping in my car. Friends and stuff that I had let me stay a night here and there on their couch because I was drinking, he said. I had just given up, he said. He wasn't working anymore, so he lost all his personal belongings and his car was repossessed. My only real focus was on how I was going to get drunk for the day. I went about trying to get drunk, and I was homeless, Nazinski said. I went from staying in a car to staying in a tent to staying in the woods, he recalls. I slept in the library parking garage. Nazinski said he got placed on an 8-hour hold in the Richland County Jail a couple of times by Mansfield police, his only run-ins with the law. Henke once picked him up after an 8-hour hold or a stay at the jail. He said he never forgot the look on her face when he messed up. She said, "I'm so disappointed in you, Jason." And she was right, he said. "I was honestly killing myself. I'm normally about 220 pounds, and I got down to 160, he said. I wasn't eating, just drinking. I would go to the free lunches, but I couldn't get into Harmony House because I didn't have an ID, he said. Nizinski turned his life around with Henke's help. Life got better with Angie, he said. The well-spoken man has been sober for 2 years. I started having seizures because of a lack of alcohol, he said, adding he bit his tongue almost in half one time, and another time he fell and hit his head. He went to a hospital after he woke up almost frozen to death outside, calling out for help. After 3 days, the hospital said due to a lack of insurance, they had to release him and gave him a cane because he had frostbite on his feet and was suffering from hypothermia. The hospital said something about reaching out, he said. He walked in the cold with his cane to Reaching Out's Harker Street warming house. It's cool. They let you in without a background check, without an ID, he said. It's come as you are. Now, Nizinski says he checks on the homeless who are living around the city and invites them to the Harker Street house. Most days, he monitors the Harker Street warming house, where people can now stay 24 hours. Here, they can shower, have a place to eat, wash their clothes, and sleep indoors. When the warming house first opened, it only allowed men to get out of the cold for the night, but then they had to go somewhere during the day. Those rules have since changed, he said. Nizinski said he joined the U.S. Army at the age of 29, serving in the infantry. Although he did not complete his full service agreement, he was honorably discharged. He also moved to Colorado for a job. He's now focusing on making a difference in other people's lives, and it's helping him turn his life around. The name of his nonprofit, Stronger by Choice, comes from him making the decision to stop drinking after trying unsuccessfully to get help from places around town. He is renovating a vacant house with plans to help people who want to do better, offering them affordable rent and a place to build a rental history. The house needs electrical work and all facets of remodeling. Donations of gift cards to Home Depot or Lowe's are appreciated for construction materials, he said. Donated labor is also welcome. Kaninsky said he and Henke give talks at churches and to others about their efforts. Local residents and businesses donate to the Harker House Warming Center, with many people signing up to bring meals each day to the about 16 men. People do want to help people, he said. I want to take her philosophy of helping people, not having to deal with the red tape and the bureaucracy. Nizinski said he gets a lot of phone calls from people needing shelter, and he tells them, come on in. Our goal is, as a group, transitional home surrounds those who are choosing to be strong with others doing the same. The chance of success increases, Nizinski said. In our next article, man's overdose death difficult for the family. Local drug fatalities are on the rise in 2020, by Lou Whitmire. Maurice King III said his motto has always been, you are the company you keep. King said he learned that motto 20 years ago from now Mansfield Police Chief Keith Porch, when Porch was a deputy at the Richland County Sheriff's Office and King was doing a ride-along with him. It's always played true for me, King III said. King's brother Drew King, 35, of Lexington, died September 14th at his home on Lexington, Ontario Road of a drug overdose. THC and fentanyl analogs were found in his body, according to the toxicology report. Bob Ball, an investigator for the Richland County Coroner's Office, confirmed. That played a very important part with Drew. He was good around good people and not so good around not so good people, King said. Seriousness of addictions? King said when you lose someone who was cared about so much so quickly from an overdose, it sends a shockwave throughout the entire extended family. It definitely makes you realize how serious addiction is, King said. In Richland County this year, the coroner's office has recorded 63 overdose deaths through December 21st, with multiple overdose deaths pending. In 2019, there was a total of 45 overdose deaths, Ball said. Family members said that Drew has had the best family support and was raised by his mother and stepfather, Debbie and Dave Cunningham. When the Ontario General Motors plant closed, the Cunninghams moved to Indiana for Dave's work. Drew lived with them for a while. Drew was a 2003 Lexington High School graduate, completing the masonry program at Pioneer Career and Technical Center. He graduated from Ivy Tech in Indiana with an associate's degree in their HVAC program. He was skilled in masonry, roofing, welding, and landscaping. Favorite uncle? He was single and had no children, but was known as the favorite uncle to his nieces and nephews, his family said. He also served in the Army, National Guard, and was deployed to assist in the Hurricane Katrina relief effort. His mom said he went places no one else was willing to go, always helping people. Debbie Cunningham said her son had an attraction to helping others, whether it be cleaning, watching kids for his brother, or doing home remodeling. King said helping the less fortunate turned out to be his brother's downfall. His brother said family members know who sold the laced Xanax to Drew, and the person was supposedly a friend. We knew he had a problem, but not to this magnitude, King said. He used on and off. The day before Drew died, Debbie Cunningham said she and Drew went to McDonald's drive-thru for breakfast sandwiches and then to Walmart in Ontario to buy a thermometer for a friend's grandmother's furnace. Not his regular self. She said he was not his regular self and was very emotional, telling her for the first time that he was mean to the family and he was sorry for it. He also said he was worried Dustin's, another brother's kid, would not know Jesus. He was always concerned about his nieces and nephews knowing the Lord, his mother said. And that day, he said, he knew he had a problem, but he hoped his nieces and nephews would learn from him not to use drugs, his mother said. Debbie Cunningham said on that day, Drew leaned across her in the vehicle to ask the McDonald's employee if she was having a good day. Many families in Richland County have experienced the heartache of losing someone to a drug overdose. Lieutenant Jason Bamman, who oversees the Metric Task Force Enforcement Unit, said as of November 1, there have been 384 overdoses and 48 overdose deaths countywide. He said 256 of those overdose and 35 of the deaths have occurred in Mansfield. Overdose deaths are up 60%. The 2019 stats for the same time frame was 300 overdoses and 30 overdose deaths countywide. That puts us at a 28% increase in overdoses and a 60% increase in overdose deaths countywide compared to last year, Bauman said. Even though the opioid or the heroin fentanyl epidemic is still trending upward at a staggering pace, methamphetamines is making a huge resurgence all across the Metric region. The 10 counties are encountering large amounts of methamphetamine daily. The other abused narcotics we see, like cocaine, crack, and prescription pills, are maintaining a steady level in the area, Bauman said. Drew always said when things were going well, I'm golden. He did everything 110%, be it fixing something or getting high, King said. His mother said she finds comfort knowing Drew was baptized, and while his mind was not right, his heart was always right. King said his brother always told family members to never do drugs. We don't think there's anything else we could have done. He had to make that change and maintain it himself. If anyone has someone with a problem, don't wait until you're looking down at them in a coffin to wonder if there's anything else you could have done, King said. It doesn't matter where you come from. It can get you, King said. Drew could not have had a better life growing up. Our next article, Katie returns to groomer, solves tummy issue, by Mark Cottle. Katie the cat recently made a return to the groomer. She was about as displeased as the last time. It takes two people to corral the 12-pound cat while she is groomed. She mews and struggles to get away. Oh, there was a growl, said Jen Studer, manager at Pet Value in Ashland. I didn't hear the growl as I recorded the session and can think of only one other time I've heard Katie growl. She complains frequently, especially if I try to move her from a spot. Her meows sound like the human equivalent of cuss words. It's obvious she's annoyed. Katie was really annoyed about being groomed. She's a long-haired tabby, but she doesn't shed much. Occasionally, groomer Allegra Anderson has to shave or cut out a matted area. For the most part, though, she brushes Katie and trims her nails. Katie likes to nip and scratch when she's playing, so I appreciate her having dull nails for 2 or 3 weeks, less bleeding for me. Allegra tries to encourage Katie that trimming her nails wasn't so bad. I'm sorry, almost done, baby, Allegra said. The more Allegra trimmed, the louder Katie became. She's not a fan of being restrained. When it was finally over, Katie rushed to get back in her carrier, something I've never seen before. Normally I have to stuff her in there to go anywhere. I thought I might have to find a new groomer for Katie. Pet Value is closing at the end of the year, but the store manager is opening Ashland Pet Store in the same place. It wasn't easy to find Allegra since many groomers work only with dogs. Lately, I have been working in the office most days. In the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic and the shutdown, I worked almost exclusively from home and spent much more time around Katie. She enjoys sleeping on my computer's carrying case as I wrote stories. Katie's a little queen and apparently has to be an only pet. Since I've been back in the News Journal office, I have been able to tend to the stray cats in the alley. I'm especially attached to a big gray and white tomcat I named Meanie because he has bitten me 3 times while I've been petting him. He's like Katie in that regard. If Meanie were a human, he would get into a lot of bar fights. He has had a scratch across his nose for some time now. A few months ago, Meanie had serious wounds on the right side of his neck and under the left side of his jaw. I think a large animal got a hold of him. He has made a full recovery, and there's a stray cat that can thrive on the street. It's Meanie. He recognizes my car and comes running whenever he sees me. Meanie has an uncanny sense of knowing when I'm around. It's not uncommon for him to come around the side of our building to the parking lot, even though there's no way he can see me in the office. A couple of times lately, he has waited outside the employee entrance at the News Journal. It breaks my heart not to let him in. If I had more space and money, I wouldn't mind taking Meanie home, though Katie would object. Overall, Katie's pretty low maintenance. Her only issue has been vomiting multiple times a week. We had tried various measures without success for the last 7 weeks. I've been crushing pills and sprinkling it on Katie's food. She's thrown up only 1 time since then. It's been a huge relief for me. The medication is a steroid, though, so I'm concerned about long-term effects. Dr. Andrew Shearer of Phillips Animal Hospital said we'll consider what to do when Katie's current prescription runs out. I'll worry about that in 2021. For now, happy holidays from Katie and me to all her readers. And that concludes the reading of the Mansfield News Journal for Friday, January 8th. My name is Pam. Thank you for having me in your home today. And as a little extra, today is Elvis Presley's birthday. Please stay safe, be blessed, make it a great day.